everyone, and welcome to the Start and Succeed podcast. For those of you that haven't listened to an episode of this podcast before, my name is Kelly Brammer and I am your host. Now, I'm here every single week talking to you about business, about leadership, and about that all-important mindset. Now, today I want to talk to you about leadership, and I want to talk to you about what a leader actually looks like versus what we think they may look like. Now, the reason that I want to talk to you about this is because as I've reflected on my own journey, I've uncovered what a leader truly is, in my view, versus what I thought a leader was in the past. And I've also been having some recent conversations with a particular client who doesn't feel that he is a leader, even though he is a leader of his own business and he's leading a team of people, because he doesn't feel he fits the typical corporate role profile of a leader. So, I'm going to start by sharing two interactions I've had over the course of my career that has made me really think about what a leader should look like versus what we think. And then I'm going to share with you what I believe a leader does look like today in today's world. So, the first thing, it's a story, but it's a true story. Now, as I say, I worked in the corporate world for over 16 years before branching out on my own into my own small business. And during that period of time, I climbed the corporate ladder. And there's one particular interaction that made me realize I didn't fit that corporate mold of what a leader looked like. And based on that, I was never going to progress any further in that particular organization under the particular person that was the managing director. So I, at the time, was leading the whole of the UK's supplier management function. So I had teams of people in the UK and overseas, and I'd had many conversations with all of the third parties that I was leading, including like base level people all the way up to senior leaders. So they knew me, they knew that I was skilled and experienced in what I did, and we had some really rewarding and I guess just mutually beneficial relationships because of the fact that we were authentic in how we came across. But there's this one particular day, and I was sat in a meeting room in the height of summer in the UK. Now, if you're from the UK or if you have ever lived in the UK, you'll know that summer doesn't happen for very long. Well, this one particular day, if I remember rightly, it was up there late 20s, possibly early 30s. It was stifling hot, and I was in a meeting room with our managing director at the time. And we were just about to go into a meeting with a third party supplier and their leadership team who I'd had an engagement with many times before. But whilst we were waiting, we were in this meeting room, the aircon was on, but it wasn't very good. So I was so hot and bothered, I just needed to cool down. So I grabbed myself a glass of water and I casually slipped my jacket off. I popped it on the back of my seat, I thought nothing of it. Started to carry on the conversation. Very quickly, I noticed two things. One, I noticed that the managing director at the time was sat there looking at me as though I'd just seen a ghost or she'd just seen a ghost. And then the next, what she said to me completely took me back. Like I didn't understand what was going off and why we were having the conversation at the time. And I had to go away and reflect on it. So I'm sat there, boiling hot, slipped my jacket off, thought nothing of it. But as I say, she was looking at me like I had two heads. So I looked at myself and straight away I just said to her, "Is there a problem?" And she said, "You've just taken your jacket off and we're just about to meet the leadership team of this third party." I said, "Yes." And she said, "Well, can you put your jacket back on, please?" So I said, "Well, really, it's too hot for me to not be wearing a jacket. I don't see the problem. To be wearing a jacket, I don't see what the problem is." And she said, "You have a tattoo on show." Now, if you know me personally, and if not, you may have seen it on one of my social posts, I have quite a large tattoo on my shoulder. Now, this particular day, I was wearing a sleeveless blouse. So as soon as I took my jacket off, this tattoo was on show. She didn't like it. It didn't fit the typical look for a leader in that corporate organization. So she asked me if I would put my jacket back on. Now I did. She was my managing director. And I just continued throughout the meeting as I normally would. But after, I didn't feel quite right. I knew that something had to change, and I knew that instantly I was never going to get anywhere in this organization under the role of that person because they'd already judged me very quickly, even though we'd had many interactions before where I showcased my skills and my experience, and I'd obviously developed up that corporate ladder. But because I had my tattoo on show and I didn't think that was a problem, she clearly did, and therefore I didn't fit that mold. Now, over the course of the following 18 months, I slowly saw a little less progression in my role. And then towards the end of it, I then became made redundant. Now, I'm not saying it's just on this one interaction. They did a whole transformation process, and obviously my role was no longer needed. But I knew instantly in that moment there would be a problem going forward. So I'm now glad that I'm out of that environment, but it's still something that I remember very, very much. And not only do I remember it because it impacted me, but I've also had many conversations with people, and I still do today, where they believe that the way that they look has such an impact on their development and their progress in a corporate environment. Now, you may or may not agree with that view, but times have changed. People have changed and things have changed significantly over the course of the last 2 or 3 years. And what we thought looked as a typical leader in a professional suit in a corporate environment changed because people were working from home. They didn't have to get all dressed up to go into the office to have meetings. Yes, they had to present themselves well, but you would notice that people have changed the way that they dress and approach people as part of their roles within a corporate environment. Now, as I say, you may agree, you may disagree, but that's just my interaction. And as I say, I wanted to share it with you because, from my perspective, having a tattoo did not in any way diminish the fact that I was skilled and experienced enough to be sat there having a conversation at that leadership level with people in the organization and people externally to that organization. But that isn't the case for all. Now, I want to bring you to the second true story. And this is where it's not just a corporate environment that you sometimes get judged very quickly on the way that you look. Now, I've been in business for myself for just over 5 years now. And a couple of years ago, a friend of mine referred her brother to me. He'd come from a corporate environment, was still working in that environment, but decided to branch out on his own and start his own small business. And he wanted some help in understanding what he needed to do to get it off the ground and then to grow that business into something successful and profitable. So we had a initial meeting and we're sat down, we're talking, it's going really, really well. And I'm talking to him about my experience, my skills, the journey I've been on, how I can help him. And we come up with some really good plans that can take him from that startup point to being a fully fledged business. And at the end of that meeting, he said something to me again that I'll never ever forget. And it really does showcase people's quick judgment and how that can sometimes benefit them, but sometimes also impact them. Now, he said to me in the moment, if he'd have seen me on LinkedIn, so if he'd have just searched for a business consultant and had come across my profile, he would have never have clicked to find out more. And if he hadn't have been referred by his own sister, but maybe by somebody else to me, after this initial meeting, he would have never have met me again. So I quickly asked why. We got into a very deep and heated discussion, and not in a negative way, but more just trying to uncover why that thought process was there. Now, again, for those of you that might know me personally, I change my hair colour quite often. And at this particular time, I had pink hair. Now, this wasn't bright pink in your face, it was just a hint of pink. But it felt at that point in time as though it was me. So I was showing up as the authentic version of me, how I wanted to look and dress. But he said on that one thing, because I got pink hair, he would have not seen me as professional, would have doubted all of the skills and experience that I had, and wouldn't have ever engaged with me. Now, again, that just shows how those traditional views of what a leader looks like can sometimes impact you and stop you from getting the right support, because times, as I say, have changed. So just because somebody doesn't look how you expect them to look, it doesn't mean that they're not really good at what they do and aren't a really good leader that you can look up to and that can help guide you on the journey. Now, obviously, I continued to work with him. We'd got past this. We'd had some discussions around why it was. But what I also got him to do whilst I was there was to go onto LinkedIn and to show me somebody in the business consulting world that he would approach if he wanted the same kind of support that I was offering him, had he not had an interaction with me already. He showed me. And in your mind, if you close your eyes right now, especially if you're from a corporate world, what do you think he told me? Now, my view of what a traditional leadership role looks like in terms of a person, a figure, it would be a middle-aged guy, very smart-looking sharp suit, very professional, stood up very straight, talking very seriously, not really showcasing any of his personality, because he's being very professional and very serious in the way that he communicates. Now, it's not to say that that person is not good at what they do. It's not to say that they don't have lots of skills and experience that enables them to lead really, really well. But that's the traditional look. When I close my eyes and think back to when I was in corporate, that's what a leader looked like. And you might think the same. So I want to change the perception. I want to help you understand, if you don't understand already, that a leader isn't just about how a person looks or dresses or talks. It doesn't matter if they have an accent. It doesn't matter if they're not wearing a sharp suit or heels or whatever it is. A leader isn't about a look. A leader is the type of person and what that person can enable in their journey as a leader. So, some of the things that a great leader looks like for me, irrespective of what the person dresses like or how their hair is or their accent, is they're inspiring. They're really passionate about what they do, and they inspire you to want to achieve more. And by doing that, they cast a vision. So they're sharing a vision with you about where things are going, and they're inspiring you to get onto that journey and go with them. And they're going to help guide you and support you along the way. Now, there's some other things in there. They will understand that there's going to be changes that need to happen, and they have to be flexible and adaptive to enable that change as quickly and effectively as possible without impacting the progress of the journey. Now, not everybody likes change, but leaders are really good at embracing change and very quickly being able to understand what needs to happen to continue to progress forward. Now, there's another thing, and that's all about how you communicate. Now, a leader may have an accent, they may drop a few swear words in there. I know I have on my journey, but they communicate really effectively. So they're really good at telling a story that's not only inspiring and engaging, but that is really authentic and gets to the key points very quickly, but so that everybody can understand. So communication is such a big thing. And then the last thing is, as I say, it doesn't matter physically what they look like. We do judge people. It's human nature. We judge people very quickly. I can't remember how many seconds it is, but there are so many seconds that we can interact with somebody and we've already judged them. But on our leadership journey, you want to make sure, if you're trying to get into leadership or if you're trying to improve as a leader, that you're doing these things really well. Because if you meet with somebody and instantly they don't like you or they think you're not good enough, they're never going to be on board with you. And that's A, fine in one respect, but also B, if you're doing that time and time again, it means that people are going to judge the impact that you can have. Now, if I go back to that point A, not everybody is going to like you. It's just the truth. There are many people out there that are waiting for you to step up, to step forward into your leadership shoes and to own your own power and be the person that you're destined to become. They're waiting for you to share your message, to get on board with that message, and to really help you and for you to help them on their own journeys. But as I say, there's a whole bunch of people that are never going to like you. They're going to hate on you. They might say things that you don't like. They may comment every time that you share something on social, kind of dismissing what it is that you're trying to say. But don't listen to them. Just because somebody tells you you're not good enough, it doesn't mean that you aren't. You know inside of you whether or not you're ready to become the leader that you know you're destined to be, and whether or not you're at the beginning of your journey or you're well on that journey towards being so confident as a leader. It doesn't matter at what point you are. All you have to understand is that if you show up authentically, if you communicate effectively, if you can share your message far and wide in an authentic way that's inspiring, that's engaging, that you understand that change is going to need to happen, and you can really start to help people uncover what it is that they need to do to enable that change themselves so that they can grow and develop and become better versions of themselves. So, as I say, going back to the moral of this whole episode, just because somebody might wear jeans and trainers, just because somebody might have pink hair and tattoos, just because somebody doesn't fit into this corporate mold of what a professional leader looks like, it does not mean that they're not a good leader and that they're not good at helping you to develop and supporting you on your journey. Now, as I say, this has really come about because I've been working with a client who's on that journey himself and starting to doubt himself because in his mind, he's still got his corporate head on when it comes to what a leader looks like. So I'm helping him at the moment to do that. And I'm sharing that insight with you because I know he's not the only person that's going through this right now. I've been there. I've shared the stories with you. There's many other people out there that's internally having this battle with what they should wear, how they should look, how they should talk. The best thing that I can say amongst all of this is just be yourself. Really tune into what you've done on your journey, all of the skills and all of the experiences that you've had, all of the lessons that you've learned, all of the failings that you've had, that you've taken the good things and use that again to become better versions of yourself. You can be the best leader ever. And there is a whole number of people out there waiting to hear from you. Now, I'm very passionate about this subject. I'm very passionate about being authentic. So this podcast may be slightly different to the episodes that I've done before. But as I say, if there's one thing that I can say, just show up and be you. It doesn't matter what you look like. Doesn't matter if you have an accent. I'm not saying that you can go out wearing your PJs and do a whole leadership talk. Obviously, you can't. You have to look the part, but that part doesn't mean wearing a sharp suit, fitting into the corporate mold. It means just dressing well, feeling comfortable in your own skin, showing up and communicating with impact so that you can have the impact that you are destined to have on this world. So thank you for listening today. It's been a slightly longer episode than normal. I hope you really enjoyed it. and I will be back again next week sharing more insights, tips, and strategies with you about all things business, leadership, and the all important mindset. Have a great day, whatever you are doing, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.